right, in this video, this is the notebook page that you should have printed today. And just like normal, you're going to cut along the outer edge and then cut along each of these lines to create like a flip book. And today we're going to talk about these two words right here, motion and position. So prior to watching this teacher video, you should have read textbook pages 410 and 411. And on those two pages, really the textbook kind of provided the definition for these two words. And then on page 412 and 413, they kind of put that into like an application or giving you like a context where you were looking at the diagram or the illustration of the penguin. Sorry, not the illustration, that's a photograph. But the photograph of the penguin jumping off the ice and into the water, and they were describing the motion, and they were using the position of the penguin, where it started, where it traveled, and where it ended, to help describe motion and position. And then you gave it a try. You should have looked at those pictures. On page 413, there were 3 of them. Let me see if I can get my book here. And you had to determine which picture was taken first, second, and third. So just based on their position and knowing their motion. So we can see that this line right here is probably like the finish line, and they're racing. And I can see that the horses look like they're furthest away from the finish line here. So that would be picture number 1. Then they're getting a little bit closer to the finish line here. This would be the second picture taken. And then finally, the third picture where I can see that this horse right here in the front actually crosses through the finish line. So again, now applying what we've learned and what we've read about motion and position. So let's go now to this page. Again, today we're only talking about these 2 words, and then tomorrow we'll talk more about speed and velocity and acceleration. So I'm going to flip open here, and first we're going to start with the word motion. So I'm going to zoom in. If you did not already print this notebook page or you did not read those pages in the textbook, you can pause this video and then return when you are ready. All right, so I'm going to rewrite the word motion here so that I know when I open this, I'm talking about motion. And to keep it very simple, motion is change in position. So change in position. That makes sense. If you're sitting in a chair, right, that's describing your position. But then if you stand to walk across the room, now you're describing the motion. So it's a change in your position. So something else to note is that we describe motion. We describe motion by telling which direction an object moved from its previous position. I'm going to give you guys a moment to get caught up. All right, so we are using position to help us describe motion. So let's look at it. Let's give an example here. Let's write down example. And we might use the example that we are traveling forward from the start line. So traveling forward from the start line. See if I can squeeze it all in. So if we think about the definition that we just gave, using direction, that would be this part, traveling forward. So now we know the object is moving. And then from its previous position. Well, where did we start? At the start line. Let's take a look at the next word, position. So we know what motion is, but now let's talk about position. So I'm going to close motion for a moment, and then I will open that back up at the end of this video, and you can pause it to get caught up. But position is the location of an object in relation to a nearby object. So let's write that down. Position is the location of an object, in relation to a nearby object. Give you guys a moment to get caught up. So you might be wondering, like, why are we even focused on this? Or who cares about position? Well, if you think about it, though, as scientists, it's really important to understand how we describe position. Without it, we wouldn't really know where to look for different objects. So by describing position, we know where to look to locate an object. Now, before we end the video, let's give an example using or describing the position of an object. So I actually am looking at my kitchen right now while I'm filming this video, and I am going to describe the position, get the correct vocabulary, Mrs. Body, of our stove. So the stove, I'm going to pretend somebody doesn't know what a stove is. The stove is next to the refrigerator. I could abbreviate fridge. And below, and just below the microwave. So again, identifying where one object is, location of an object, we're talking about the stove, and we describe that in relation to a nearby object. So I actually gave you guys two. It's next to the fridge and just below the microwave. So those are the nearby objects. So I'm going to open both of these back up, and if you guys need to, if you need more time to write down these definitions, you can pause the video right here and finish recording.